what's going on, everyone? My name is Lepri of Stokastic.com, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 8 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in DFS this week for week number 9. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure you leave a like down below. It helps us out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. And we're to talk about our sponsor of today's video, BetMGM, a little bit later. So I hope you guys enjoy this one, and let's get on into things with the contenders on DraftKings for week number 9. We begin with the quarterback position at number 8 with Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. His price on the week is $5,800. At 7, we have Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit, $5,900 on the salary. Tom Brady at number 6 of the Buccaneers going up against the LA Rams at home in Tampa, $6,000. At number 5, where the true breakdown begins, we have Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. His salary on the week is $6,700, and right now, based upon our current Stokastic projections on Wednesday, as I'm recording today's video, he is projected 20.2 points in this game. The Dolphins have a 25.25 implied point total in this spot, ranking 8th in the National Football League on the week, and the Dolphins are favored by 5 points in this game. Now, last week, obviously, we saw the Miami Dolphins slice and dice their way through the Detroit Lions defense, despite the fact that they were down 14-0 to start off the game. Tua Tagovailoa put on a fantastic performance in this spot. And realistically, this week, he should do the exact same thing up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago, though there is one issue, that's the weather. This game is projected to have heavy winds on it on Wednesday. Now, again, I'm not a meteorologist. We might get to the game on Sunday. There might be 0 wind. It might not be windy at all, or maybe there's 40-mile-an-hour gusts. So that's something to monitor as we get closer to Sunday, how much wind is going to happen, because if it's looking incredibly windy, then I don't think I would want too much to do with Tua in this spot. Right now, he has a 4.7 optimal percentage and a 4.8 boom percentage in this spot. Next up, we move to quarterback number 4, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Carolina Panthers at home in Cincy. His salary on the week is $6,600, and we have him projected to score 21.3 points in this game. The Bengals have a 25 implied point total, ranking 9th, and they are favored by 7.5 points in this matchup. Now, we just saw the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons get into an incredibly high-scoring tit-for-tat game, which was very fun to watch, and we saw PJ Walker actually look really good. Maybe Christian McCaffrey was the reason the Panthers were so bad. Obviously, that's a joke, but if the Panthers offense is able to put the pedal to the metal, they could really make the Bengals have to throw the ball deep into this game. The Bengals offense did not look good at all up against the Browns. I do think this is a get-right game for them. I ultimately think Joe Burrow bounces back in this spot. Right now, he has a 7.2 optimal percentage and an 8.9 boom percentage. I like this spot up against the Panthers. The Panthers defense hasn't been the best. I know people might get a little bit nervous because of how the Bengals looked last week, but ultimately, I do believe this is a get-right spot. At number 3, we have Justin Herbert of the LA Chargers going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. His salary right now is $7,200. Right now, we have him projected to score 21.9 fantasy points in this matchup, and the team has a 26 implied total in this matchup, ranking 6th in the NFL, and they are favored by 3 in this game. Well, I understand why the spread is kind of close like this, because the Atlanta Falcons have been a cover machine all season long. Justin Herbert is dealing with injuries all around him, and at this point, he's probably still injured himself from what he ended up getting hurt with up against the Kansas City Chiefs earlier on in the season. Mike Williams will not be playing, and Keenan Allen is basically a shell of himself at this point in the season, but he doesn't need all these star-studded wide receivers around him to produce up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL in the Atlanta Falcons. And if the Atlanta Falcons offense decides to actually throw deep into the game instead of just running the ball like they did earlier on in the season, last week we saw them pass deep into the game, then maybe, just maybe, the Atlanta Falcons will push the LA Chargers offense to have to throw deep into the game, which is incredibly positive towards Justin Herbert having a great fantasy day. Right now, Herbert has a 6.10 optimal percentage and a 6.6 boom percentage in this spot up against a not-so-hot Falcons defense. At number 2, we have Kyler Murray, the short king of the Arizona Cardinals, going up against the Seattle Seahawks. His salary on the week is $7,400, and right now we have him projected to score 23.1 fantasy points, and his optimal percentage is 6.5% in this spot. Now, up against the Seattle Seahawks, I do kind of worry about the Arizona Cardinals because the last time these two teams played, this game was incredibly low scoring, but Vegas thinks it's going to be the exact opposite of that because the Cardinals have the 5th highest implied point total on the week, and the Cardinals are favored by 2 points in this matchup. Again, last time these two teams went toe-to-toe, it was an incredibly low-scoring matchup, but they were without DeAndre Hopkins in that game, and while the Cardinals ended up losing last week, the Cardinals have really stepped up things as of recently, and ultimately, I do think Kyler Murray is one of the better options at the quarterback position on the week. At number 1, we have, you guessed it, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against the New York Jets in MetLife. Salary on the week is $8,500. We have him projected to score 27.9 fantasy points, so there's a large gap between Kyler and Josh Allen in terms of projections. The Bills have the number 1 projected point total on the week with 30, and they are favored by a staggering 13 points, and Josh Allen's optimal percentage is 11.30 with a 50 boom percentage. For obvious reasons, this is a big spot for Josh Allen. Obviously, he made a couple of mistakes up against the Green Bay Packers in prime time last week, but I don't think we should just panic because that Josh Allen is still the best quarterback in the NFL. I know the Jets defense has looked amazing this year, and PFF has them ranked as the number 1 defense. I do think the Buffalo Bills stomp all over that. Now we move to the running back position. At number 8 of the running backs, we have Leonard Fournette of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the LA Rams, 6,600. Kenneth Walker III of the Seahawks going up against the Cardinals defense in Arizona, 6,200. And Joe Mixon of the Bengals going up against the Carolina Panthers, 6,500. Ramondre Stevenson is our number 5 back right now on the week in terms of projections, going up against the Indianapolis Colts at home in New England, and his salary is $6,200. We currently have him projected to score 18.14 points in this spot, but the Patriots do have an incredibly low point total on the week implied with 22.25, which ranks 18th in the NFL, which is very low because there's a bunch of teams on bye this week. They are 5.5 point favorites in this game, and Ramondre Stevenson has the 2nd highest optimal percentage at the running back position with 25.9 and a 17.9 boom percentage. This game could get incredibly scrappy up against the Colts. I think both of these teams are going to look to play hard-nosed football and establish the run. A lot of people thought Damian Harris would play a much bigger role in this offense once he returned from injury, but that has not been the case, and Ramondre Stevenson has been the sole back on this team. Outside of a couple of plays where we end up seeing Damian Harris mix in, Ramondre Stevenson is the guy, and I love this spot up against the Colts defense. Next up, we move to number 4, Travis Etienne, who showed out in London last week of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders in Jacksonville. His current salary is $6,300, and we have him projected to score 18.32 points. But before we break down Travis Etienne some more, I want to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at BetMGM. They have a great offer for you guys. If you click on the link in the video description down below, they will give you, if you are a new user, a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. And they will also be giving you guys 2 free months of Osmo Plus Platinum to get a lot of the tools and the information that I'm talking about in this video, so you can get it up to date on Sunday. Make sure you guys check that out. Click on the link in the video description. While you're down there, click that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. It really does help us out a ton. So back into things with ETN. The Jaguars have a 23.25 implied point total in this game, ranking 13th in the NFL, tied with the Detroit Lions. And the Jaguars are 1.5 point dogs in this spot, which to me seems a little bit crazy because of what we just saw out of the Raiders. But I guess the books don't want to panic too much. ETN has a 27.3% optimal percentage, ranking numero uno, number 1, at the running back position, an 18.2% boom percentage. We just saw the Las Vegas Raiders get a train ran on them by Alvin Kamara, so it's pretty clear why you would like Travis Etienne this week. At number 3, we have Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. His salary on the week is $7,300, and we have him projected to score 19.85 points in this game. The Raiders have a 24.75 implied point total in this game, ranking 10th in the National Football League. And they are 1.5 point favorites because obviously the Jaguars are 1.5 point dogs. 21.2% optimal percentage, ranking 4th, and 16.5 boom percentage in this matchup. Josh Jacobs had a down game last week. So did the whole Raiders team. Now, maybe you want to be a little bit nervous about Derek Carr or Devontae Adams, but Josh Jacobs is going to be just fine. He still had an okay game if you play fantasy football and DFS. Obviously, if you paid the salary for Josh Jacobs, shit wasn't too sweet for you last week, but at the end of the day here, up against the Jaguars defense that has been struggling recently, I like Josh Jacobs here as the number 3 back. At number 2, we have Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions this week in Detroit. Salary $7,400, projected to get 20.42 points. The Packers have the 4th highest implied point total on the week with 26.75, and they are favored by 3.5 here up against a awful, atrocious, terrible, dumpster fire, any type of word you want to use to describe something as bad. That's what the Lions defense is. Jones has the 3rd highest optimal percentage with 21.2, and he has a boom percentage of 17.6. Now, again, we just spoke about how bad the Lions defense is. The biggest issue with Aaron Jones every single week is that, in the back of your head, A.J. Dillon is still going to be getting touches, but recently it feels like the team has really went with the sombrero man himself, Aaron Jones, who always rocks the sombrero. I feel as though Aaron Jones will continue to see a higher workload as the season goes along because that's their best game plan towards actually doing things, having success, is giving the rock to Aaron Jones, so I like him in the spot. Again, this Lions defense is putrid. At number 1, we have the bald man himself, Austin Eckler of the LA Chargers, going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, $8,800 on the salary, 21.36 projection for us in his fantasy points. The Chargers have the 6th highest projected point total on the week with 26. He is the 6th highest optimal percentage running back, and he is an 11.2% boom bust percentage. Now, obviously, you got to pay the big bucks for Austin Eckler. $8,800. Very clearly, the highest salary running back on the week. But with how bad this Falcons defense looks, it makes sense that you might want to pay up that high salary to get Eckler. And again, the team's without Mike Williams, so they're going to need to throw to someone, and Austin Eckler is a target hog. Next up, we move to the wide receiver position. At number 8, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions going up against the Green Bay Packers. Multiple down weeks in a row. People might be looking to fade Amon-Ra. I think this is the spot when you hop back in on him. Devontae Adams of the Raiders at 7 up against the Jaguars. Mr. T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Carolina Panthers at 6. At number 5, we move to the gritty man himself, Justin Jefferson, Jay Jettas of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Washington Commanders. His salary is $8,600, a revenge game for Mr. Kirk Cousins, and we have him projected to score 20.66 fantasy points in this game. The Vikings have the 12th highest implied point total in the NFL this week, and they are 3.5 point favorites up against the Commanders. Every single week with Justin Jefferson, you can never count him out. You can never truly fade a guy like Justin Jefferson because in any given matchup, now the Commanders defense is not the best. Any given matchup, he could be going up against the Eagles, and I know things didn't go too well the first time these two teams played, but man, oh man, I could still see him being the number 1 wide receiver in any matchup. The guy is just flat out incredible. Up against the Commanders, he is our number 5 wide receiver. At number 4, we have DeAndre Hopkins of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Salary $7,900. DeAndre Hopkins probably made the catch of the year last week for the Arizona Cardinals in a game that they ultimately lost. We have him projected to score 20.69. Very nice. I like fantasy points, just 0.3 points higher than DeAndre Hopkins. So these guys are, or than Justin Jefferson, I should say. So these guys are incredibly close in our rankings. Right now, the Cardinals have the 5th highest implied point total in the NFL. Like I said earlier with Kyler Murray, they're 2-point favorites in this spot, and D-Hop has a 15.4% optimal percentage here. The Seattle Seahawks have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Again, last time this game was closer, but I'm going to go ahead and believe in Vegas. Believe that they're correct, and believe that this might be a high-scoring game where D-Hop could finish as the number 1 receiver. At number 3, we have Tyreek Hill. His current salary is $8,500 on the week up against the Bears. We got him projected for 21.27 fantasy points. Tyreek Hill obviously went off up against the Detroit Lions. The only problem with Tyreek Hill is he just has not been scoring touchdowns, but he makes up for it with the fact that he's leading the NFL in receiving yards. Again, my Tyreek Hill take is very similar to my Tua Tagovailoa take. If the game doesn't end up being windy, I love Tyreek Hill in this spot. If the game does end up as windy, I think I wouldn't want to have as much Tyreek Hill in my lineups. Like if I played 150, I would definitely temper him down a little bit if it ended up being incredibly windy. But again, I'm not a fucking meteorologist, and it's only Wednesday. Things could change by Sunday. The weather people are wrong all the time. Next up, we move to my number 2 wide receiver, Cooper Kupp of the LA Rams, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Salary on the week, $8,900, 15.4% optimal percentage. And we got him projected for 22 points. Now, the problem with Cooper Kupp is that he's hurt. Now, the Buccaneers defense has been a huge downgrade from what we saw last season, and I do genuinely believe that Cooper Kupp has the upside to smash in this spot. But you also have to realize that he's hurt and he didn't practice today on Wednesday. So by the time we get to Sunday, if he's in a peg leg, if he's doing his Halloween costume in a peg leg like a goddamn pirate, I still think you could consider playing Cooper Kupp. But when you're at such a high salary, $8,900, the highest salary of a wide receiver we have talked about, do you really want to invest in that when the guy's going to be banged up? Again, he's still one of the best receivers in the league, but that is definitely something you're going to have to think about. And by Sunday, I think we'll have a much better idea on how healthy he truly is. The number 1 wide receiver on the week is, you guessed it, Josh Allen's teammate Stephon Diggs of the Bills, going up against the New York Jumbo Jets in New York, $8,400 on the salary, 22.83 projected fantasy points on the week. Again, the Bills are projected to absolutely stomp the Jets. 13-point favorites. 30 implied point total for the Bills in this game. 18.9% optimal percentage for Diggs. 21.1 boom percentage. There's a reason why we talk so much about the Buffalo Bills every single week. The Buffalo Bills are the best offense in the National Football League. The Jets defense, I know they're so great. Sauce this, sauce that. I think Sauce is going to get some sauce on his shirt, vomit on his sweater already, mom spaghetti type deal. I really don't think that the Jets stand much of a chance here. And the best thing about the Bills is they don't just hand the ball off late in the game. They like to stomp you out by aggressively just continuing to throw the ball and score points and shove them down your throat. We move to the final position here, the tight ends with Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram, and Dawson Knox. We got Dawson Knox at 8,350 up against the Jets. Evan Ingram at 7 of the Jaguars going up against the Raiders, 3,300. And Hayden Hurst of the Bengals going up against the Panthers, 3,600. At number 5, we have Big Bob Tonyan of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit, 3,800 on the salary. And we have him projected at 10.56 fantasy points. The tight end position this week, I will note, is a bit of a hellhole. It's really, really dicey here, but it really just feels like all season long, outside of really Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, this tight end slate has been brutal, and that's why we do all this research to figure out who you want to be playing. So Tonyan projected 10.56 fantasy points. Again, the Packers have the 4th highest projected point total because the Lions defense is straight booty cheeks. 15% optimal percentage for Robert Tonyan, and they are favored by 3.5 points in this spot. Tonyan has been touchdown dependent in the past. Last year, he got banged up. The season before that's when he scored a bunch of touchdowns. The Green Bay Packers wide receiver room is definitely beat up. Allen Lazard is questionable to go on Sunday. Even if Lazard does end up playing, I still think you want to talk yourself into Tonyan. Tonyan barreled through a defender last week, scored a touchdown. They ultimately call it back. I didn't like that call. But again, I'm not a referee in the NFL, so Tonyan makes a lot of sense to start him again up against such a bad defense. At number 4, we have Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals going up against another bad defense with the Seahawks, salary 5,100. His projection is just 0.02 points higher than Robert Tonyan with 10.58. The Cardinals have the 5th highest implied point total on the week, and again, they're favored by 2 points, 4.1% optimal percentage for Zach Ertz. Now, with DeAndre Hopkins back, obviously that does create a potential out for Ertz, for talking yourself out of Ertz because, oh wow, Hopkins such a great red zone threat. But Zach Ertz hasn't been the best this season. I still think he's better than the points he's been putting up. So I think he deserves a spot inside the top 5. At number 3, we have Gerald Everett of the LA Chargers going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, 4,800. The most annoying thing about the Chargers is that every time I read LAC, I instantly think of the Clippers, projected for 11.22 fantasy points. They are favored by 3 in this spot, 7.8 optimal percentage for Gerald Everett. Again, the reason why I feel so comfortable with Herbert with Everett is because of the fact that Mike Williams is banged up and that Keenan Allen's kind of unsafe. And the fact is that I really do believe that the Atlanta Falcons have kind of turned the page. They've realized that while Marcus Mariota isn't necessarily the best quarterback in the NFL, they can still throw the ball late in the game. They don't just have to hand the ball off to Cordero Patterson, who should be back this week. Like, I really do think Gerald Everett is extremely interesting in this spot. Only 4,800. I know that is technically one of the highest tight ends on the week, but 4,800, I'm not going to say that's super expensive at the tight end position. I think Everett is in for a good spot here, assuming that the Falcons are able to fight back on into this one. At number 2, we're about to talk about Kyle Pitts, though. Spoiler alert, he's number 1. Tyler Higbee of the LA Rams going up against the Buccaneers, salary 3,700, 11.26 projected fantasy points. Now, despite the fact that the LA Rams offense has been an absolute unmitigated disaster all season long, Tyler Higbee has continued to be one of the key focal points in this offense. Now, if Cooper Kupp does not end up playing, which I think is in the range of outcomes, then everyone and their mother is going to jam Tyler Higbee into their lineup. I can see that coming from a mile away. I didn't even have to rub the crystal ball to figure that one out. I already could have. Come on, anyone with a bit of a noggin could have told you that. So you're gonna have to be eating the chalk here if Kupp doesn't play. But I'm gonna love to eat that chalk like Jameis eats that W. At number 1, we move to Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Chargers, 4,500 salary, 12.49 projected fantasy points in this spot for Pitts. Now, Pitts has been up and down all year long. He's had a couple of good games. He's had some games where you're like, wow, why did I play this guy at tight end? Or, oh, I flexed Kyle Pitts because he was so cheap. Now I feel like a buffoon. 15.4% optimal percentage, 17.5 boom percentage in this spot. The Chargers defense has been subpar, so I really do think this game could get a little bit gritty, could end up being high scoring, back and forth, tit for tat. So I'm fine buying back into Pitts this week, but it does hurt a little bit to do because we all know this guy might end up stabbing us in the back. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below as well as that like button. It would help us out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Make sure you guys check out our offer. Get that $1,000 risk-free bet from BetMGM by clicking the link in the video description and get 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So make sure you guys activate that with the link in the description. I love you guys all. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.